All right, so we're going to talk about something about atomic habits. And I actually did a talk at the SAFE Summit about this. And we thought, you know what, this could apply well to value stream management as well. We had applied it to leadership. And one of the ways I came across this book was I had a scaling challenge. And I'm not talking about safe or disciplined agile. I'm talking about being too scaled and not lean enough. And all of my life I have dealt with this problem and have really not been able to get to the weight I want to be at. So I came across James Clear's book, and he talks about habits. And one of the things that was an aha moment for me was that one of the reasons why I was failing to get to my ideal weight was I didn't have the habits to support my goals. And so, as an example, we want to make bad habits hard to do, while we want to make good habits easier to do. So we'll go into this a bit. Also, one of the great things about atomic habits is that little changes compound over time, like compound interest in your 401k account. And it just takes a little bit of change every day to make a big difference. Now, the tough part is that when you don't see big change happens, we can always get discouraged and not continue on that journey. That's one of the things that I've always had. So this time I said, okay, I'm just going to be patient and keep going with it, you know, starting not able to walk as far as I want to being 3 miles a day, from being able to do about 10 push-ups to now 200 a day. So all of a sudden these changes compounded very quickly over time. So there's something called a habit loop, and notice that everything in life seems to be a PDCA cycle. Same things with habits as well. And every time we perform a habit, we're performing a 4-step loop. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to have a cue or a trigger if we're thinking in value stream terms. What makes the brain initiate a particular behavior? Then you want to make the habit have a craving for it. You just want to do it every day. What can you do to have that craving, to keep going on? We want to make it easy to do so that we will do a habit without any friction. And then lastly, we want to make it satisfying so that there's a reward that we get for performing our good habit. And just as an example, let's say that you wanted to watch less TV. Well, one of the things that you can do is you can put the remote after you watch in a spot that's hard to reach. You can unplug the TV set. Now it's going to be harder. I got to plug the TV set in. I got to get off the couch. I got to go search for the remote. Where did I put it? That's providing friction for a bad habit. For a good habit, as an example, is I would take the fruits and vegetables I have in the house and make them visible and put it on the island in my house. And the cookies are stored downstairs in the basement. Now, that wasn't easy to get my wife to agree to that, and she's like 105 pounds and 5'7". So now she gets a lot more exercise, or I do because I had to go down and get them for her. But I've made it so that it's hard to eat the junk and easier to eat the good stuff. And I also happen to have gotten a puppy. And I found that she has been the best exercise equipment I've ever have gotten. Because I have to walk her every day. And so, you know, just a couple times around the block, now I'm walking her, you know, 3 miles a day. And it gets her nice and tired at night, which is good, so we can get some sleep. So that's part of the reward that we get. So now Keith is going to talk about how we can unlock flow and value, taking this into account.
Yeah, so as Rich said, you know, he did this talk at Safe Summit. I listened to it, and I was having all these ideas about how this could equate to value stream management and just habits in general. I've heard some change management stories here, executives and things like that. I had somebody in my past give me an OCM person. It was a philosophy called learn, lead, model, and reward. And so Rich and I were talking about this, and if you think about that old saying, if you get better 1% every day, just imagine how much better you're actually going to be, right? But I think, again, we were talking about how do we influence leaders? How do we influence our organizations? How do we create champions in our organization? Well, guess what? We have to learn, we lead, we model the behaviors, and then we reward those things through our organizations to kind of bring that change forward. And so this is mine, so making improvements visible. All the tools people, yeah, tools, they are great. I'm old school, you know, I got the gray hair to prove it. I still have a Kanban board down in my basement, a whiteboard. I like taking my stickies off the wall and throwing them in the trash. I like coming down in the morning and seeing my to-do and my in progress every day, and I go, and I look at myself, and I know my team knows this. I go, my whip limit's like this, it's overflowing every day when I go down. But what I'll do every day, whether I get to it or not, is I star 2 things in my in progress, and I try to get something done every day. And so again, like Rich was saying, it's a habit. It's something I do every morning when I'm actually working in my home office and I'm not out doing something else. And so I'm going to pivot back to Rich now.
Okay, so one of the things in order to maintain those habits, you should do tracking. In fact, there's a habit trackers out there, very simple form you can use. There's apps out there as well. And when you track your habits and see the progress that you're making, you have a much better chance of achieving your goals if you're doing your habits on a daily basis and you have metrics to see that. So just came up with some metrics. These come from my Value Stream Management for the Digital Age ebook. And this is also in the Scaled Agile framework as well. So we have flow metrics, the standard flow metrics from the flow framework. I really like the way that they cast it. There was nothing necessarily new in there, except he did a great job of packaging this up and really making it visible to the whole world. So the project to product book was great. So we have different KPIs for the business, OKRs, and so on. So what can we do to focus on our habits and routines? We can identify a habit. We can choose a new habit. So for example, I can stack 2 habits. So I like to listen to podcasts. And so what I do is when I go walking, I will listen to a podcast when I'm walking my dog. And I have a much better chance of going 3 miles than without that something distracting me and listening to something cool. So that's called habit stacking. And you're basically building upon a habit you already have. So in the morning, you can have, let's say you brush your teeth and you want to read more. Well, every time I brush my teeth, my book is right there in the bathroom. I grab it and I go read it. At least 10 pages. And no matter what, don't break your habits. Even if you do a small piece, go ahead and do it. You know, it's going to make a difference. If you miss your habit twice, then you have to build up to it. And it's going to take you a lot of repetitions before that habit will return. And once you have that habit, almost my brain is forced to do what I want it to do. In other words, so if I haven't walked during the day and it's 10 o'clock at night, I'll take my dog out and we'll go for a walk because my brain says, you haven't done that thing yet. And it's incredibly powerful. So here are some flow habits. And these are 8 accelerators from the SAFE framework, which I think are fantastic. Visualize a limit WIP, address bottlenecks, minimize handoffs and dependencies, get faster feedback, work in smaller batches, reduce queue lengths, optimize time and zone, and remediate legacy policies and practices. And we won't have time to go over the last 2, which are the new ones you probably have not heard of as much. And then finally, we need to inspect and adapt. Let's see what's going well, what's not going well with our habits, and figure out what we need to change and adjust. Because not all of your strategies for choosing those habits, for choosing how we conduct those habits will work. So you're going to have to experiment until you can really find out what are the cues work for you that will cause you to initiate the habit, and what are the things that you're going to do to break bad habits by putting a lot of friction between yourself and that bad habit. And so I'm getting the hook. I'm seeing there was only a minute, 2 minutes, I reconcile between the two here. So thank you very much.